I have a rocky relationship with politics. Half of it just because. Oh my. Okay. Anyways, sorry.
Pop Bears beats Battlestar.
Stay on target.
You can't handle the truth.
Stay on target.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
With great power comes great responsibility.
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Welcome to the pod.
Welcome.
I'm Connor.
I'm Jacob.
And I'm Jordan Summers. And even though I'm more skilled than a liger hunting wolverines, I'm still worse at women. I'm still worse with women than both Napoleon and Kip Dynamite.
That's amazing.
Well, for Kip by the end of the movie, not too bad.
Yeah.
And by Napoleon by the end of the
chatting
movie.
with babes
So
online all day.
All day. Welcome to Pop Culture Redemption. We're just three guys here, have a conversation about God working in pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
And today, this episode is being released on an election Tuesday. So we're going to get really serious as we talk about politics and Jesus and election by diving into very serious movie.
Very serious.
Very serious. Napoleon Dynamite. So we're trying to keep things real snow. We're trying to keep things a little lighthearted as we review a movie that came out in 2004.
That's an old one.
It is. For the three of us, that was, well, at least I was in late elementary school when this came out. I don't know how old y'all are. A couple
Probably
years younger
about the
than me. Yeah. Elementary age-ish.
Yeah.
But definitely a big part of culture back then.
We've been in like second grade.
Yeah.
And remains a very big part of culture even today.
Even as I watched through, I was like, oh my gosh, all these quotes. Now I understand where these are where these are coming from. And so we're gonna kind of use that movie a little bit to help guide our conversation today. But as we get into the episode, a couple of housekeeping things. One, we have loved engaging with you all who are listening to the pod and who are commenting on our either YouTube channel or our videos on YouTube or on Spotify,
Engaging
filling out
with the polls.
Yeah.
And leaving reviews. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Keep doing that.
And we just want to celebrate that this week we hit over 200 plays on all our podcast platforms.
Woo!
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it was really cool. So we're really thankful for you all, and we're excited about continuing to engage with each other. So you can also, as always, follow the podcast wherever or however, or as Drax would say, why ever you get your podcast. You can check out our YouTube channel, and you can always contact the show at admin@popcr.org. And a poll that I think we'd like to add to today's episode that I would like to add. I said the royal we, but I actually didn't run it past Jake or Jordan before this.
Wow.
Is again, we're trying to decide kind of how best to interact with you all, and maybe consider doing a social media platform somewhere. So if you could respond to the poll on the show or the comments on YouTube and let us know what do you think the best platform for you would be for us to maybe set up a PopCR account on something and start to build a little bit of community that way as well. So check out the polls, put it in the comments, let us know. Any other housekeeping? Oh,
well, just speaking of polls,
Yeah.
just segue to the movie with voting and stuff. I don't know. I was just going to try this transition.
nailed it.
Great.
Vote for Pedro. So
Excuse me.
Because when you vote for
What?
Pedro, all your wildest dreams will come true.
What?
I am Jordan Summers.
We're not voting for Summer.
You get some votes.
We'd vote for Summers, but not Summer.
I'll take it.
Deal.
So you
Are
mean-
you another Duff sister or?
I am all of the Duff sisters.
Oh my goodness. I've had a Duff.
So
Love
I think
it.
we're going to start
Proud of
this.
you.
We're going to start this episode with a conversation and maybe giving just some thoughts on, again, it's election day, wherever you're at, whatever the things on your ballot are that you're voting for, either people or bond stuff. We have a school bond thing in our neck of the woods that we're voting on, and a lot of other things to vote on today. How do we, or what do we feel like are appropriate things to consider as believers when we think about engaging with politics and culture, and how do we honor God by the way that we relate with each other and engage in those areas helpfully?
Well, clearly, I'm going to vote on everything that benefits me. And it doesn't matter what it does to anybody else.
Everybody else is wrong, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, clearly.
Obviously, like the opposite of that is probably, I think, but that is kind of my point with when it comes to voting is whatever you're voting for. I think we have to be careful to not really be voting for ourselves. Because I think it gets, I think we get caught up sometimes in all of our, political decisions of what is the most beneficial to me in the immediate. When in reality, what might be most beneficial to me, for one thing, is more than likely what's beneficial to more people, what's beneficial to the mass majority of people. And I think we also have to be careful to not assume that we're right about any particular position. No matter what we vote for, we have to go into voting and think of our politics in a way that says, I'm willing to be wrong about this thing that I'm voting for. I'm willing to be wrong about my candidate. I'm willing to be wrong about my positions. Because if we're not, then we're going to get caught up in ourselves and get so defensive that we're unable to hear and see anything else. And there's a good chance, like the Pharisees, that we will miss Jesus. We'll miss God incarnate right in front of us.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
If I have a rocky relationship with politics, because half of it just because. Oh my. Okay. Anyways, sorry. Anyways, if I half the time I honestly just forget to vote, which I know is bad. And the other half I have a really, I'm not going to say the word. I have an interesting relationship with politics. However, I do have one comment that I think needs to be shared. Is just if your candidate does not get elected, I just think back towards the last couple presidencies. No matter who gets elected, I'm not going to get into a plane and hope the pilot crashes. You know, even if I disagree, I'm not going to just hope that they do a bad job. I'm not going to try to undermine their platforms. And I think this is you go to politics, you go to school boards, you even just go down to respect of authorities over you. And I even think about in the church setting with pastors. If I disagree with a pastor, they're the head of our community. They're the ones that help direct where we go together. Why would I want them or try to help them fail?
Yeah, no, that's helpful in thinking about from a biblical perspective. I think about when the Israelites came into why am I forgetting the word? Where they get removed from Israel. Land? No, when they get removed. The wilderness? Exile. Why couldn't I not think of that word? It's right there and it's gone. Which happens a lot, apparently. I'm learning that happens to me a lot. And when they're in exile, right, they're called to seek the prosperity of the place that they're in. Right. Right. Even though, of course, they don't agree with all the things that the leaders in that area are doing. Obviously, they've been carried out in exile, so they don't worship the gods that they worship, right? But they're still called to, hey, be for the prosperity of the place that you're in. I think that's there's just no point in. Okay, there's a point in bringing out the things that somebody could be doing better, right? But there's really no point in just trying to undermine, the authority of someone who has a lot of control over you. Why would I want them to do such a bad job? And the best way that I could help them do a better job, one is trying to hold them accountable, but two is
by showing respect even in our disagreements.
Yep. Yeah, and I had similar thoughts to that, obviously, and then what Jordan was talking about. Actually, so one of the things I already pulled from the movie into this spot, which we're not really supposed to do, but Napoleon tells Pedro, right? He gives him this advice: tell the people during your speech that their wildest dreams will come true if they vote for you. And I just wrote, this is too real. And this is exactly what I think a lot of
We'll get rid of-
politicians or like whatever your preferred news outlet is.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of, it's reinforcing what we already believe.
Yeah.
And, or what we want to be true, or they tell us what we want to hear so that we elect them type of deal. And like what Jordan said, you know, don't always just vote for politics and politicians because of what you will benefit from, but consider, hey, what is the direction that we think is the best for our community in our world, and what is going to be honoring, glorifying
For the common good.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
just your good.
And I think in this political season, for me, it's helpful to think and be aware of my own biases and my own lenses, to do practices that I think we've talked about on this podcast, but like seek to understand before being understood, ask questions, listen, you know, why are people voting the way they're voting for, or what are the legitimate arguments, both on maybe the side that you would tend to agree with, and then what are the other side, and try to enter into those.
Be curious, not judgmental.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. Woohoo. And to not work really hard to not vilify a person or a political party or a politician or a specific issue that's on the ballot or whatever that is, because when we vilify something, I think it's really just an escape to not actually engage with the tough issues and the complexity that exists in that issue. Because when we I lost my train of thought. Jake,
Mr.
go.
Gibson, what
What's
does
up?
vilify mean?
Vilify, like to consider them evil.
I could have got
To say, oh, you're just evil. That's why
Yeah.
you're voting that
It's
way.
almost like we need to treat
Or-
people as people and not make them
Right.
gods and idols.
Or you're blind, or you're an idiot. That's why
Yeah.
only idiots would vote that way.
Yeah.
And everyone has a reason for the way that they vote.
People don't need to be demonized for their opinions.
Yeah. And we need to be able to engage gracefully in those conversations, both understanding, all right, there's going to be ways that I come in here with lenses and biases and where I'm wrong, like what Jordan talked about. And I want to engage with people and help them I want to come to a greater understanding between us. And so if I want people to come in a conversation with me and be willing to change their mind on a thing, I need to come into that conversation being willing to change my mind, because otherwise you won't ever meet in the middle and figure out, all right, what are our differences?
Yeah.
How do we move forward together even when we disagree, either a little bit or a lot?
Well, because it's in the middle where life actually happens.
Right. Yep. And I think a reminder too for believers that we belong to and identify with the kingdom of God, not a political party.
Yes.
So if your belief, if your faith is more influenced by your politicians and your political party than it is by Jesus, then I'd encourage you to unpack that a little bit with the Lord in prayer.
But also, like, you are still a citizen of the nation you're living in.
Right.
And even in the New Testament, I think it's Paul that tells us to like follow the laws of the land and respect those who are put above us. I just like, we can't use our like, I'm part of the kingdom of God, I can do whatever I want. This like, because I just remember back to like COVID, when it's like, I'm not going to wear a mask. I have a religious opinion. Like,
yep.
Do you just wear the mask?
No, that's a good thought. Yeah. For me, it's like, where is our identity at? And who and what forms our identity, to just be aware of what are the things that we are making ultimate. And it should be Jesus and who God says we are. That should be the primary formation of our identity, and not what our political party tells us we should be, or what we should value, or any of that stuff. So it's just stuff to be aware of, because I've heard it said before that we're all being discipled to something or someone.
Yeah.
We just need to be aware of what those factors are that influence. Okay, so we are going into Napoleon Dynamite now.
What a great
Specifically,
movie.
It's very good. So this movie, like we said in the intro, is released in 2004. It was released on June 11th, 2004. It had an operating budget of around $400,000.
That's so low.
And it brought in almost $50 million.
That's incredible.
Like from theaters and from ticket sales. So not to mention all the different things that have happened with that movie and how they've made money since. So that is like big win. Big win. Let's just give a round of applause for Napoleon Dynamite, creators of Napoleon Dynamite right there. There we go. Yep. Well done. Well
Thank
done.
you, Jordan, for doing an actual round of applause.
We're giving you your flowers 20 years later. Well done. So again, an election is part of this movie's plot. And so we were like, hey, what would be kind of a fun, a lighthearted kind of thing to bring in? There are lots of movies that are about elections and politics, but are usually skewed one way or the other or have a pretty big agenda within them. And we're like, we don't want to touch that. But we're like, this one is pretty light, fun. It was influential in culture at the time it was released, and it still has ripples and waves in today's culture because a lot of these quotes I still see and hear all over the place.
Glorious.
So we are diving in. Let us start with Rejoice. So again, we get to rejoice what is good about this movie and what we really enjoyed about it. So who wants to kick off the Rejoice segment?
Okay.
Do it.
Thanks, Jordan.
I haven't heard your voice in such a long time.
I want to rejoice that I feel seen.
Yes.
Okay, so it's Napoleon Dynamite is a weirdly accurate depiction of school life in the early 2000s. If there's anybody who did not grow up in the early 2000s that's listening to this, take my word for it. This movie's like actually weirdly accurate to it.
Like a time machine back to 2004.
It really is. And like the whole movie's about the outcasts, right? It's about seeing their life and what they're like. And like that, it's me, it's my life. Like that, like I was in that group in school, like growing up, like I'm not even as cool as Napoleon Dynamite. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like the outcast until late high school. And then late high school was like weird, but that's another story.
Yeah.
I want to point out that the tater tot scene.
Oh,
I literally did that when I was a kid.
yes.
Are you serious?
Yes,
Yes.
not even joking. I literally put like food.
Yes.
Like I had times when I would like put like tater tots in my pockets.
I was never
And I
smart
didn't
enough.
even. I brought a lunch every time, so I would take other kids' tots who didn't want them because I knew they weren't going to eat them. Like, dude, you want your tots? They're like, no. And I would take them, and then I would put them in. Like, again,
That's beautiful.
it is. I felt seen. I felt so seen. I understood. I understood pop culture better, and I understood myself better. So there we go.
There you go.
That's my rejoice.
That's awesome. I love the a couple different lines in here. I mean, I loved all the
So
quotes.
many one-liners.
So many quotes over this whole thing that I was like, okay, yeah, my middle school experience makes so much more sense now. I had never, until we watched this movie for this podcast, I had never watched it from the beginning to the end. I'd seen pretty much all of it in different chunks, but I'd never sat down and just watched it all the way through. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was my entire like middle school experience and early high school. I was like, okay, I understand a lot of these, quotes now. So I want to rejoice in that. I really enjoyed where Napoleon sits down at the table when he's trying to talk to whatever her name. What's
Deb.
her name? Yeah, when got the ponytail out the side of the head. And when he just sits down and
Best pickup line
and
ever.
are you drinking 1% milk because you think you're fat? Because you're not, which good on you, Napoleon. So you could be drinking whole milk if you wanted. I don't know why. It's just like,
That's so smooth.
I was like, what? Well done, sir. Yeah. That. And she's like, what? What an odd thing to say to someone. I also want to, rejoice, just as we named in the intro that, or not the intro, but the introduction to this movie, that it was so creative and
It's so creative and low budget.
yes, low budget. And I miss those kinds of things because I feel like they're few and far between, like the really artistically special things that are so good that they kind of jump over the hoop of having, like, if you're a musician, right, and you're just trying to do it without signing to a record label or anything like that. Like, that's very rare because a lot of that is controlled by bigger businesses and bigger companies. So it's really cool to see a small budget film just like break onto the scene and like take over culture for like, and have such a big impact that we're still talking about it 20 years later. So I just want to rejoice because I think that's really cool.
It was really cool. Well, you took all mine because it was the one-liners. The one-liners were great. Teeny, you fat lard, can you get some dinner? But so one, I want to rejoice in making the main characters out of the socially awkward. That was pretty great. I felt seen. That not every conversation has to be like where everybody knows exactly how to respond and exactly what to say. But I also just wanted to rejoice in like the camaraderie between like friends and supporting one another with their own interests. It was really cool. I'll have more to say that in like the redeem part, but I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It was good.
That's great. All right. So obviously there's a lot of really cool things to rejoice. Let's get into the reject. Okay. What are some things about this movie that we want to reject?
I reject lying to get what we want.
Oh, say more.
So Napoleon and Kip probably to some extent. Yeah, no, Kip too. Both of them at the beginning of the movie, they're trying to like, they're lying
like one-upping
through their
each
teeth, one-upping each other. But like, you know, even talking to girls or like whatever, they're like, or even like when Napoleon's talking to Pedro, it's like lying to like build this bigger, cooler image of yourself than what is actually true about yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that idea of like lying to try to get our way, to get what we want, to try to get people to like us, to try to get our political agenda. I think lying to get what we want ends up hurting us in the long run. But also when we're lying about ourselves, we're missing the fact and the truth that we are loved, even in our mess and mistakes, right where we're at, even as we are. And I reject that.
Yeah.
I also reject the failure of the school system in this, but that's
what, that they didn't allow Pedro to have a piñata of Summer out in the front of the school. They failed there by not letting him do that.
I think it was like a one-sided bullying thing where if Napoleon got bullied or Pedro got bullied, or you know, whatever happened to any of them, the characters just kind of like took it. But anytime they did anything, the school was on top of them. Pedro not being able to find his locker or not being able to figure out where he's going, the principal's on him. The piñata thing.
He got in trouble for doing that to Summer.
Yeah, but Summer didn't get, like, we never saw Summer get in trouble for anything she did. She didn't get in trouble for like stuffing all the pictures and stuff. And there was the people who, like, the bully who was like messing with Napoleon the whole time. So like, it's just stuff like that where I'm like, that was my school experience, and the failure of the school system. I reject that. I think there's things about that we need to.
Let's not get on that soapbox because I feel like you and I will have a lot to say. about that.
Yeah, that'll be an episode of itself.
Yeah.
No, I want to hop back on the like lying to get what you want thing. Because I see a little bit of that even in our church culture today, and it's not necessarily lying to get what you want or be cool, but it's more like, well, honestly, it's kind of like one-upmanship. Like you have a lot of people who will walk into church culture. Oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm blessed. Everything's great. Even though I was arguing with my spouse and kids all the way here, and I'm worried because I got $2 in the account and I'm struggling with addiction. But you know what? You're gonna ask me. I'm blessed. I think that when we hashtag blessed. No, I think when we do that, we miss the actual intention of what church is supposed to be. Because church was like, the reason why the church was established was not to look holy. In fact, that's kind of what Jesus actively spoke against, is the people, you know, the whitewashed tombs. They look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside they are hollow and empty. Like, the point of the church is we grow together, and we grow together by being honest with one another. and not like, oh yeah, like instead of actually saying like, hey, I'm struggling with loneliness, instead I'm going to be like, yeah, I've got a girlfriend. She's a model. She went over to Germany to do some modeling. I can't pay for her to come to the school dance or else she would. Like, no.
Yeah.
Just no.
Yeah.
But like, we miss out on what the church is supposed to be when we're inauthentic with others.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an opposite side of that where it's like there is a time and a place of when to be open and who to be open to, especially as you get up in like leadership. I mean, I think of like the Michael Gungor fiasco of him sharing on stage on Sunday morning his doubts and his belief in God, and like the whole church just collapsed and people lost their faith because they were following him so intently. That's a whole different soapbox to get on. But like, there is a time and a place of who and when to be open with, but that we shouldn't be faking it. If you're not doing okay, say so. Let people love you. Let people take care of you and speak truth over you.
Yep. Yeah. And thinking about, when you're talking about appropriate, like that's like a, who to be appropriately like real with.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, who's your people? You know, like that's a callback all the way to the first episode that we ever did. Gal, that's still, man, it still reminds me of just like wanting to and needing to surround yourself with people who can love you and who you can love.
Yeah.
And be real with and say, hey man, like,
well, like
today has sucked. Like
if Jesus
support
could have done everything by himself,
right,
and chose not only to have his 12, but to have his 3 guys inside the 12, that he was able to share the high points like the transfiguration, and then also the low points of him crying in the garden. Mm-hmm. If he needed people, why do we think we're better than that?
Yeah, it's true. I had a similar vein to both of you. So I think we are all rejecting similar things here. But specifically, I want to reject the part where Kip turns into a completely different person by the end of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
That when he like meets and is with LaFonda. And then he even says like that he found his soulmate, even though he has completely changed everything about himself to fit her and her wants and her desires. And he's so desperate to be in a relationship that's like kind of celebrated almost in this movie. Like, yeah, this is what happens.
Yeah, because he's happy in the end.
Yeah, if you like are with someone that you think is better looking than you, or just better than you, or like out of your league, then yeah, you got to change everything about yourself to match them. So I was like, yeah, nah. So a few things. One, this is for all the boys out there. Okay, boys out there, listen. If you need a girl so badly that you change who you are to be with her, that's not for your good.
Yeah.
You will not find that person to fill that need. So remember, this is true. One, you're made in God's image, and you have tremendous value just in that. Not in like what you do, the good and the bad things about you. Nope. You're just made in God's image, and he loves you. Two, yes, in the short run, rejection hurts. Absolutely.
In the short run, yeah.
In the short run, rejection hurts. And it can be loneliness is real. I think you can find belonging and community in things other than just a significant other. But that is a significant way that a lot of people can experience community and companionship. But in the long run, right, having that rejection and loneliness is far better than changing and not being authentic with who you are, which is what we've been talking about.
So just one thing to add on to that, especially if you're looking at like maybe you've got a friend that's getting into a relationship and notice that they start acting differently. I think there's a fine line between changing yourself to be in the relationship and being in that relationship changing you.
Oh, that's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if it's a healthy and godly relationship, you should be different. Because the point of the way that I've always seen like my relationship with my spouse is that God uses her the most as the vessel to transform me into a man more like Christ.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
So I think like if you're trying to change yourself to stay in the relationship or to be in the relationship, like you can't force change. Change will happen naturally.
Yeah, and who are you changing towards?
Yeah.
Right? That would be the
yeah.
Is it towards Jesus and towards godly living and towards, or is it towards everything else? What you see happen with Kip in this movie.
Yeah. Well, I'm like it'll happen on the little things too, because just since we started this podcast, you realize how many times I've just randomly said heck.
Ah, heck.
Because Connor says that a lot.
It's because Ted Lasso said it and I thought it was hilarious.
Or just like it makes sense if you don't think about it. Like
Yeah,
I say that all the freaking time now.
Yes. And so, yeah. And I wanted to mention too, find people who love God and love you in all of your good and your bad. Because you get both. All right. You get both. And the third thing that I want to mention too, and I thought this was catchy, so I don't know. Maybe we'll put this on a shirt. If you are searching for your significance in a significant other, you will never find it.
Woo.
Oh.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Oh, say it again for the people in the back. If you're searching for your significance in a significant other, you will never find it. That's only found in Jesus. Mm-hmm.
Link to shirts maybe provided in episode notes. Who knows?
Okay, let's move into the redemption. It's time to redeem.
Amen.
Redeem this thing.
Jordan, what you got for us?
Oh, Jordan gets to start.
Yeah, I haven't heard your voice in a while, and
It's
I miss
okay.
it.
Jordan
okay.
gets to start, but
I
I'm
like to
afraid he's
listen.
going
Whenever you guys start, I just like to listen and like take in and absorb.
to clear the runway, everyone. Jordan's about to
all right,
take off.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. All right. Napoleon Dynamite is ultimately what the church is called to. Let me
geez.
explain what I
Do
mean.
we all write the same things?
Do tell. Do
It
tell.
isn't grandiose. It isn't trying to coerce you into its agenda. It is simply walking in the ordinary strangeness of our lives and circumstances. And the beautiful picture of the outcast experiencing acceptance and belonging.
Well, yes.
Well done. Well done.
You want to expound on that at all?
I
There's
mean,
a lot in there. I love it.
There is.
I want to give you the
Unpack that
space.
for us,
I want to give you the
Jordan.
space to.
You gave us
well,
a nice wrapped package.
play
I
in
think
that
we can
sandbox
unwrap
if
that
you
a
want.
little bit.
So I'm not going to be able to remember the address or be able to quote the verse verbatim, but I constantly think back to when Paul wrote to one of the churches about leading a quiet life.
It's in it's either the Corinthians or Thessalonians. I don't remember which one.
I think it's Corinthians. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It's one of them. Anyway,
I'm gonna figure it
Yeah,
out like
you figure it out.
afterwards.
Yeah,
Hold
right.
on.
I just
I'm
love
gonna
how you pick
disappear
the
for a
books
minute.
that have 2 each, and so you double your chances of being
Yep.
right there. You're like either the Corinthians or the Thessalonians,
it's either in the Old Testament or it's in the New
John or
Testament.
Peter.
I think it was written by the Word of God.
I think it's in one of those John books somewhere.
I think it's one of 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, the Gospel of John.
That's right. I mean, usually I just say it's one of Paul's works.
Revelation.
That's like 2/3 of the New Testament. Like I think Paul says.
Yeah, you got it covered
I
there.
think, yeah.
Anyways,
So I think back to that verse a lot because I think we get really caught up in the church with doing bigger, greater, grander things and we say we do it in the name of Jesus. I think we disguise it as the name of Jesus. And I think really I think a lot of times it's our own ego boost. I think a lot of the other time it's not necessarily an ego boost, but it's actually because we're trying to find significance and we try to find significance in our Jesus achievements. And I wrestled with this for a long time. There's a term, it is called missionalism. And the church absolutely should be missional and is absolutely called to be missional. But missionalism makes the mission of God more important than God himself. And that gets really dangerous. And what Napoleon does really, really well is instead of giving you, here's everyday Peter Parker, and now he's Spider-Man, and he's doing these crazy awesome things, going on an adventure, and he's big and it's cool and it's spectacular, the spectacular Spider-Man, the amazing Spider-Man. Instead of this big grandiose thing, it's taking an ordinary circumstance, ordinary situation, ordinary people, and just celebrating them. And it's just pointing to that and putting the camera on that and saying, let's watch this for a little bit. Let's watch these people. And the movie is slow, and sometimes life is slow.
And there's like barely any soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's just life.
Yeah. And I think, ultimately that we as the church can do well to learn to enjoy all aspects of God's creation that are made good
Yeah.
instead of just going after the mountaintop experiences.
I was right. It was 1 Thessalonians 4:11 through 12.
Well done. Good job.
You're welcome.
Well done.
Oh, heck. I had a similar point.
Go for it.
So I guess I'll piggyback. So it's kind of, but also not the same. The first time I watched this movie, it made no absolute freaking sense. Like I couldn't see a plot line at all. It just seemed like a bunch of random nonsense that just happened together. However, this was my third time watching through this movie, and I think it finally clicked why it seems so weird, or at least what I saw. Do y'all know what the hero's journey is? So for the listeners who don't know, the hero's journey is a popular story outline in which a hero is reluctantly called to a quest or an adventure, meets their mentor along the way, starts battling the tests and trials of the adventure, but also starts battling themselves. And then through the fire and the flames, dragon,
We'll
something.
carry on.
Yep,
No, I
you're
think I got
welcome.
the wrong key.
Through the fire and the flames
There it
is made into a new and better hero with the help of his mentor, and then eventually, slays the dragon, defeats the enemy, saves the world, all that stuff.
Gets the girl.
Yeah, gets the girl, all the other stuff. Now, what I saw in this movie was an inversion of the hero's journey, where the main character or the hero is not the hero at all, but the mentor. At least what I saw, Napoleon's role was helping Pedro. And I think kind of like what you were saying, Jordan, like we all think that we're supposed to be the heroes in this story, that like God will call us to these amazing missional things. I'm going to bring thousands to Jesus and I'm going to raise billions of dollars and do all these amazing things. But I think oftentimes, and what I would even consider the Great Commission, is to be the mentor, not the hero, is to see the light of Jesus and other people and bring it out of them. Like that is what I would think of as the call of the Great Commission, to baptize people in the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit, to teach them, to train them in the ways that I have commanded you. And then and surely I will be with you to the end of the age. Like the whole purpose, oftentimes our call will be the mentor, not the hero. It's to be the Dumbledore to the Harry Potter, to be the, oh shoot, I had this written down because I didn't remember his name.
Yoda?
The coach for
Sorry,
like
I know you like Star Wars.
Rocky's
so-
trainer, he's training the Italian stallion. I can't remember his name. It's to be the Obi-Wan Kenobi to the Luke Skywalker. It's to be the Samwise to the Frodo, or the Gandalf to the Bilbo. Like it's to be the mentor, not the hero itself. Like that's how we can do these great, amazing things.
Yeah. Discipleship. Oh, that's very good.
Also, Disciples, a great band. You should listen to them. Anyway, continue.
They are good. They are good.
Please sponsor us.
So I want to redeem, or seek to redeem, like when we think about how we're engaging with this movie and with culture, is I see a lot of people, and I can even look at my own life too, that can identify with the uncle in this movie, with like the uncle yearning to go back in the past because of his regrets or wishing things had gone differently, or feeling powerless to influence his journey, right? And he makes a lot of different comments throughout this movie, but it's obvious that he's stuck in the past. Like he's stuck in 1982. Right. He's stuck there in his regret and his insecurity. And I think many people, both believers and non-believers, are stuck or can find themselves in seasons where they are stuck in what was or what could have been instead of what is and how it is moving forward. And Uncle keeps talking about 1982 football thing not working out. And then he like blames everything from this one point. Like if he would have started or he would have played in that game and the coach would have put it in, I could throw this ball over that mountain, or whatever. And we would have come back in the fourth quarter. No doubt in my mind, we would have won that game, and then I would have gone pro, and then I would have met the woman of my dreams. And then and it's like, he's just compounding all the failures and all the down part of his life back to kind of this moment where he's stuck. He's living life now, but he's living in the past. He's regretting the past. And so as we engage in those seasons of our own life where maybe we have regrets, or we look back and wish things had gone differently, or we think that if things had gone differently, then things would be different today. And we kind of are in this, it's a fantasy, right? Because it's not actually what has happened. But we're stuck in this past. How can we engage in that spot, or with people who are in a similar spot? So I came up with kind of three 3 things that I want to encourage us to consider.
Lay it on us, Connor.
Here we go. 1, lament. So the first is to often, I think we ignore real pain because we think that it's not justified, or we want to be tough. We don't want to acknowledge it's there. Maybe he's like, I'm a tough football player.
Real man.
Like, I don't, like, I don't want to deal with these feelings that I'm having, even though I keep spilling out into the rest of my life. So acknowledge and sit in that loss, in that pain, in whatever it is, and know that what you're feeling is legitimate. And so there's kind of this lament. And then I think number 2 is, as we lament, it leads us and should lead us to trying to seek out where it reminds us where we are to put our hope and who we're to put our hope in. So I got like out of Lamentations 3 in the middle of this. Lamentations, if you want to talk about lamenting, just read that whole thing. But in the middle, it gives us a brief moment of hope. And it says, I remember my affliction, my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. And so what are we putting our hope in? Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. For his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. Therefore I will wait for him. And so as we're lamenting, as we are working through the pain of regret, the pain of loss, the pain of what has happened either recently or a long time ago, it also, through that, as we work through that with the Lord, and we can help people see that through the Lord, that we can put our hope in things that do not, in someone, in God, who doesn't put us to shame. Right? We talk about suffering produces perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope. Hope that does not put us to shame. And from there, when we have our hope centered in Jesus instead of in our own lives or in what has happened or in this mystery future that, oh, maybe things will be better tomorrow or the next day, that then we're able to, number 3, move forward. So we think about we're able to run with perseverance the race marked out for us. And who are we running towards? Who are we fixing our eyes on? Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith. Yeah. So if you find yourself stuck in, or people that are stuck in a traumatic experience, that are stuck in the past, that are stuck in what could have been, in regrets, like the uncle in this movie, I think it's those 3 things are really important. To 1, be able to lament with them, or for yourself to lament, to process through that with the Lord and with others, to find our hope centered in God and in Jesus, and then to continue to move forward, straining on towards the prize, right? Running the race with perseverance, the one marked out for us. So I could see the uncle in a lot in my own life when I look back at different things that have happened, and you can kind of be like, oh, if this just hadn't happened, or man, if this had happened, and how could it have been different? And to legitimately lament those things, because there's a lot of legitimate things that we lament in those. But in those things, I think for me, it often reminds me of my hope is in Jesus. And when my hope is not in Jesus, then that's when oftentimes it's really, really hard to move forward. And I've got to go through that season of, oh yeah, I got to build my house in the rock. Who is Jesus? I've built a little piece of my house, or a bigger piece of my house, on sand, and the winds came and the waters rose, and that destruction has been complete. But it reminds me to continually build my house on Jesus. So that's my redeem from this movie. Is it helped me to kind of think through a lot of that stuff, and I think that it's an important thing that we could have conversations with others. So, well,
it reminds me of the Philippians passage where he says, I've not achieved perfection, but I focus on this one thing, forgetting what is past, and looking forward to what lies ahead. I'll finish the race for which we are all called heavenward through Christ Jesus.
Yep. Awesome. Well, if you, audience, have things that you rejoice, reject, or redeem about this movie, we want to hear about it. Let us know. Yeah, let us know. Make a comment. Send us an email, admin@popcr.org. You can leave stuff on Spotify, right?
You can give a read
on the episode.
Give a review.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you give comments on
Q&A, maybe.
There's on Spotify. There's maybe
we'll put something in the Q&A.
Yeah.
We'll put something like that. Well, we already put that in there.
Tell us who to vote for. No, I'm kidding.
This episode officially sponsors Pedro. So
yes, vote for Pedro.
And if there's someone named Pedro on your ballot, we're not talking about that person.
Probably not talking about that person.
No, he probably can't grow a mustache in a couple
There
days.
you go. That's right. Yeah. So, let us know. Let us know how you engage with this. Again, follow, do the verbs, comment, rate, review. You know the drill. Check out our YouTube channel. If you'd like to contact us again, that's admin@popcr.org. Fill in the poll about if you use social media in any way, and we want to consider what are some different ways we can continue to build the community that we've got going on here.
But also word of mouth.
Yeah.
The best way that we can share awareness of this show is just by telling people.
That's right.
So if you like it, tell your friends. If you hate it, or if you really like it, tell your enemies.
There you go. So, because we're looking to build that community.
Yeah.
6 seasons in a movie.
6 seasons in a movie.
That's what I'm talking about.
Pop.
All right. Well, I think that's all for this episode. Anybody got any final thoughts? Jordan, did you have something?
Yeah, I have something.
Hit
I
it.
don't want there to ever be a movie about me.
No movie?
Oh, come on. Who do you think would star as Jordan Summers?
Gosh. Tom Cruise. I can see it.
Who is the star of Tommy Boy? Who played Tommy?
Oh, that guy.
Oh no! Don't do this to me, Chris Farley.
Yeah.
That
You, Chris
guy in a
Farley.
little coat.
All right. Well, we've really diverged here, but this was a good episode. So thanks for listening again, and happy Election Tuesday. That's all I
Bye-bye.
got. That's all I got. Yeah, I guess I'll say. Just remember, God's working even in pop culture. So keep looking.
Pop.
We out.
Bye.
Peace.